but it's a, you know, it's got some pep. It's no M3, but come on. It gets some of the job done. It sounds pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Flat sixes always sound damn good. Especially the Maker with the dry sump. This is a 2007 911 Porsche GT3. This is my personal car. And who am I? My name is Steele Davis, and I actually purchased this car on Cars and Bids about a year ago now. I've driven about 8,000 miles since purchase. Car had 22,000 miles on it when I bought it for about $96,000, and since then I've spent about $80,000 making it a lot cooler and faster, aka modifying it. Or if you've spoken to Doug DeMuro, which is the reason I opened the video like I did, he'll tell you that modifying cars essentially ruin them. And we're gonna go for a drive in this thing and maybe determine whether or not it's been ruined. But first of all, let me give you a tiny bit of background on me, and then we'll talk about what I've done to the car, and then let's go drive it and see if it sucks. So again, my name is Steele Davis. I live here in Atlanta, Georgia, right about 20 minutes from Road Atlanta, and I've worked at PEC for about 3.5 years, and I've done a lot of track day organization stuff with coaching and just whatever you want to do. I've literally probably done it in the last 3 years as far as driving and track days and whatnot. Traveled all over the world, been to the Ring, been to Spa, done a lot of the tracks here in the Southeast, and have driven with a bunch of different organizations. So I'm obsessed with driving. I really pride myself on just being good at throwing cars around. Maybe not the fastest on track, but at least being able to throw a car into a weird situation and be able to get it out of it. Rally is kind of where I got into cars, so that's my ultimate love, is just setting cars up to be able to throw them in a position to where, yes, it's fast, but also it's fun. I also like modifying things to make them faster and just burning money, because that's what we like to do with cars and modifications. We just light it on fire, and maybe someone else notices and we say, cool, thank you for noticing, and was that worth all that money? Kind of, but not really. So let's talk about this car and what I've done to it. Like I said, I bought it for about $96,000 last year at 22,000 miles, and it was completely stock aside from a set of HRE wheels and a Sharkworks center section, which I have completely gotten rid of because I hated both of them. Not really, but I just didn't care for the wheels, and the exhaust was not my style. So went with something completely different. Now, let me talk to you about what this car kind of came with from the factory. So this is a 2007 Porsche 911 GT3. So this is the first year that was of the 997 as far as the GT3 is concerned. So it went back to the oval headlights. It actually got a little slit here in the front to get rid of some of that excess heat in the third radiator. You got a little lip down here. You got 5-lug wheels still 5-lug wheels still, like you did on the 996.2, but on the 997.2 they went to center locks, which I don't like. We'll talk about that maybe later in another video, but I just don't think it's really good for road use. So 5-lug all the way, more wheel choices, and just, yeah, I think it looks better personally. And as far as everything else is concerned aesthetically, you have this cool little wing here that I think is like the best wing that has ever been put on any vehicle known to man, and it comes stock on the 997.1 GT3. It's amazing. I love it. And yeah, that's just that. As far as the rear of the car, you got a center exit exhaust, which again was the first generation of the car with a center section exit exhaust on a GT3, or any road going Porsche for that matter. It was on the 996 Cup car, but not the road car. It had dual exit on the sides. And this car in general has a 3.6 liter Mezger that makes about 415 horsepower and 300 foot-pounds of torque, in that ballpark range. It's got a sunroof. The only GT3 that had a sunroof, really, in America, we only got them with sunroofs. So if you get a 997.1 GT3 in America, it's going to have a sunroof unless something's happened to it. In this case, this car probably shouldn't have a sunroof, but it does. For whatever reason. This car I did, like I said, I bought it for kind of cheap because it had a history, and that history was maybe a flagpole landed on the roof and broke the windshield and dented the roof, and some guy fixed it and rebuilt the title. So again, the reason I bought this car, and I wanted to pay significantly less than for a clean title car, because these cars can run from anywhere from $135,000 to $160,000 depending on mileage and color and whatnot. This car at $96,000 was a bargain because it was mechanically sound. There was nothing wrong with it, and I planned on putting a half cage in it anyways to protect from rollovers. But in the sense of this car being mechanically sound and usable for what I wanted to use it for, which is what it's intended to use for, and drove on track and driving very spiritedly on the street, yeah, this was a perfect vehicle because I could essentially save myself $50,000 and then, you know, light that money back on fire and put it back into the car in modifications and make it cool. So yeah, like I said, I wanted a driver's variation of this car, and this was the perfect car for me. And we'll talk about that now with the modifications and what I've done to it. So over that last year, I've done quite a bit. I'm going to try to go over all of it very quickly because there's a lot, and I'll give you some little close-up detail pictures of maybe some of the stuff that I have gone over and touched that you can actually see, because a lot of it's under the car and you can't really see it. So first of all, I got the car. It was kind of rough as far as the paint was concerned. It needed a detail. It had sat at a Copart for a little while and got a little scratch and whatnot. So I had it fully ceramic coated and paint corrected on the top. I had the underside fully dry ice blasted to get it all clean and fresh. Then I went about and put Tarrant monoball suspension on every single arm, so everything's monoball. It's got AP two-piece rotors with a J-hook. It's got 3.12 for roto pads. It's got the bolt conversion, or the stud conversion rather than the bolts for the brake calipers. It's got stainless steel lines. It's got the E88s, which you can see, which are 19 by 9, 19 by 12. I've got RE71 RS tires on there, which are 235, 35, 19, and we got 305, 30, 19 in the rear. And then why did I go 19s over 18s? I'm kind of period correct guy. I'm a little stickler about period correctness. The 19s came on this car, did have a very similar size, 19 by 8.5, 19 by 12 in the rear as far as stock size concerned, but the tire sizes are a lot more available instead of running an 18 on these cars. And yes, I know a track car, I have some 18s. I got some CCW C10s in black, same size, 18 by 9, 18 by 12 in the rear, and those are kind of like my kind of full period correct wheels, even though E88s are very period correct for this car. So yeah, E88s, we got a full like track alignment on there, about 3.5 degrees of camber in the front, about 2 in the rear, a little toe out in the front, a little toe in the rear. We got a little bit of a rake, about 10 millimeters in the suspension, which gets me to the suspension. So I do like the stock car. The stock car drove great. I did drive it on track the day that I got it, and it was a very, very manageable and fun to slide around. Overall, it's very stiff, and it had some pretty sticky tires on there, but the car just was like loose and fun to slide, which is very like, gives me rally vibes. And I kind of made it a little less stiff by putting some really nice suspension on the car. So pulled the stock suspension off just because, why not, and put some MCS three-ways on there. So we got high speed, low speed compression, and we got rebound adjustment as well as the third, as far as those three-way controls are concerned. And these are remote reservoir suspensions. So yeah, you got a big remote can sticking out here where you can adjust all of that, and then rebound is on the top of the struts. So got a lot of a suspension adjustment, and I've had fun playing with that over the last year or so. And as far as like underneath the car and like mechanical stuff, I have done quite a bit, not just exhaust, but I did put an M&M full exhaust in this car. So I wanted it to be kind of quiet because there's a couple tracks around Atlanta area here have some sound decibel limits. I think 98 at Atlanta Motorsports Park, and this car is 95 with a full exhaust and a 200 cell cat. Still passes emissions, super quiet, doesn't draw a lot of attention on the street. It's silver. This is GT silver, so it doesn't draw a lot of attention in general, which is awesome because I really like the fact that, you know, it's kind of a subtle car. Unless you know, you don't really just pick up on it. People see it and they don't really. I don't get a lot of looks. I had a 991.2 GT3 RS prior to this. You could not leave the driveway without getting some kid flailing out the window trying to take a picture of it. I had a 997 or a 991.2 manual GT3, and that was a little more subdued. This is way, way more subdued. This is, you don't even realize you're driving anything special because no one around you knows what it is. So that's kind of the cool part about this generation and why I've kept it in a similar like stock look. Unless you know the wheels and it's lowered a little bit, you don't really notice anything special. But like I was talking about, we put an M&M exhaust on it, made it a little quieter in a sense of overall noise levels, but it's consistent now. There's no flaps opening and closing. I also re-geared the transmission because these cars come with a 344 rear end from the factory, and the 344 is pretty long. First gear does like 60 miles an hour, second gear does like 80 miles an hour, third gear does 106, something crazy like that. So maybe it's even more than that. I can't remember the exact ratios, but we went with a 389, which is the 997.2 GT3 RS ratio. Basically shortens everything up a little bit. It's the same gear that comes in the 997.2 GT3 RS and the 997.2 GT3S 4.0. And as you've noticed, probably the shortening of the gears makes things a little more spicy, as you've seen from the ST and now the new 992.2 cars. They all went slightly shorter gears, and yes, it makes a huge difference in how the car feels as far as the torque range, especially when you're dealing with an engine like this, which is a 3.6 liter Mezger, makes about 415 horsepower from the factory. So not a crazy powerful car in a sense. Yes, that's a lot of power, but this car weighs about 3,200 pounds with a sunroof and me in it and whatnot. So not a crazy light car, not a crazy high horsepower car. It does rev to 8,400 RPM, so it's kind of a lively car, and it's very peaky as far as when the power band kicks in. It's about 5 to 8, and that's like really where you want to keep the car. And to do that on the street is really hard to do with that stock ratio. So I went with that 389 ratio. It shortened everything up. You're not fully breaking triple digits on the street by third gear anymore. And it overall just makes the car a little more fun. You're not just in one gear throughout an entire mountain road because second gear is good enough and does 40 miles an hour and also does 100 miles an hour. So that's why I went with that. I also went with a 4-liter clutch and flywheel. Just lightened everything up to a single mass. Went with a MPR diff, so we went with the torque flow, which is a billet housing differential. So motorsports differential locks up really nicely. I track this car quite frequently. I'm not that opposed to like excess noise. Obviously with that clutch, it's going to jingle and jangle, as you'll hear when we drive it later. So it makes a lot of noise, and I'm okay with it. I also put, as far as interior wise goes, we got a full Cantrell Motorsports half cage. This is a bolt-in. So most of the cars that you see out there have like these little ones, that the tech equipment ones that stick into the stock seatbelt holes, and yeah, it's kind of probably going to do something if the car rolls over, but it's not really doing much for rigidity, and it's not really doing much as far as safety. Maybe a glorified harness bar. So I went with the Cantrell Bolton Motorsports cage. Yes, it bolts through the floor and it bolts through the rear strut tower. It stiffens the car up just a little bit, makes a little bit more noise in the car, but overall it's not that bad. You'll see it when we go out for a drive. We got the remote reservoir can stuck to the back on that cage. We got an external fire extinguisher in there. We got some Schroth 6-point harnesses that are mounted to some pole positions. So we got Recaro pole positions with some GMG sub mounts and sliders. I went with a CAE shifter. I've gone through 4 different shifter setups now, and this is the one that I like as far as just overall feel. I didn't really necessarily want to go short shifter, but I ended up going short shifter, and it feels pretty good now. The transmission's gotten a few flushes through it. I know that sounds like a lot. Who's flushed the transmission multiple times in a year? Well, I do track the car quite a bit, so yes, the transmission's had a couple flushes. And other than that, we got a little Momo Mod 69 wheel, and yeah, I replaced the speakers and the head unit, so it's got a PCCM Plus in there, so it's got full CarPlay if you want to plug it in. I'm not a huge fan of wireless CarPlay, although I would say the Alibaba version is probably the one you want to go with. If you went with a PCCM Plus, you probably just go with the Alibaba one for $200 instead of spending $1,000. I've got an amp up front, and I went and replaced all 9 speakers in the car, and yeah, the whole sound system is amazing now. Before it was complete trash. And other than that, yeah, the car is phenomenal, and I have modified quite a bit of it, and I PPF'd it, did all kinds of little things here and there that I probably am not remembering off the top of my head. But oh yeah, RSS, or actually Wevo engine mounts, and a solid polyurethane transmission mount, which also makes things a little louder inside. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop in the car and go for a drive and determine whether or not we've ruined it. let's get this thing warmed up. Let's see if we've ruined it. In the beginning, the gearbox is a little notchy, but that's pretty normal for these cars in general. All right, so we're sitting at a red light here, about to pull onto the highway. Got a little bit of gearbox chatter, but that's pretty common with the 4-liter clutches. I'm gonna show you the gear ratios before we go start diving into stuff on the side roads. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about maybe what this car is all about as far as like a driving on the street. So second gear, third gear, we got a little cop indicator up here. KA band just letting me know that there's a policeman up ahead. But so fourth gear 65 miles an hour, fifth gear 65 miles an hour, sixth gear 65 miles an hour. We had an 800 RPM drop. So when I had the gearbox re-geared, we put that shorter ring and pinion in there, and there he is. Hey, Mr. Policeman. We had him put in a 389 ring and pinion, but then a taller sixth gear. So 1 through 5, I have all the short fun ratios I can play with, and then sixth gear, if I want a cruiser gear on the highway, just pop it in sixth. I'm at 2,500 RPM doing 65 miles an hour. It's essentially if I had never changed the stock ratio. So you can bump back into fifth, and I have some torque again, same exact speed, but if I want to pop into that sixth gear and get that cruise on and do Autobahn speeds, I can without having too much of an issue with keeping the car revving so high. So a lot of people that do that ring and pinion, they also do the 997.1 GT3 RS gear, which is a little bit longer than the factory gear that comes in these cars as far as a sixth is concerned, but it's still revving pretty high on the highway. And none of the tracks that I use here in Atlanta, I'm getting over 160 miles an hour. So I just geared it to where I specifically would be at 160 on 19s in fifth gear at rev limiter at 8,400 RPM. So if I need to go faster than that, sure, I can pop it into sixth. And yes, I'm not going to have the fastest lap time, but it makes the car a lot more enjoyable on the streets. So let's go ahead and open the windows up, and we'll take this thing for a little spirited back road driving. I'll talk to you more about the car overall. Let's pop this sunroof so you can actually see me, because there is not a lot of light going on around here. So as far as when the car's like warm, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's just a little bit of gearbox chatter, and it kind of makes like a diesely noise when you rev it, because everything's kind of vibrating at a certain frequency. The diff makes noise obviously because it's trying to lock up under low load. But it's it's got some pep. It's no M3, but come on. It gets some of the job done. It sounds pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. Flat sixes always sound damn good. Especially the Maker with the dry sump. The shifting's kind of slow with this gearbox, I'm not gonna lie. I've kind of gotten used to it. It was a gripe of mine when I first got the car because the gearbox was a little sluggish, and I was like, why do I watch cup cars ram through gears all day long? Why is this box, which is essentially the same thing, so slow? And it's just the nature of the car when you don't want to break every synchro, or you have synchros. Some cars don't have synchros and you can just bang, 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 bang through gears. So yeah, this gearbox is a little slow. The engine's a little laggy until you get up above 5,000 RPM, but the suspension overall is a lot better than stock suspension as far as like bump control and understanding like what's happening on the road. The alignment's made a huge deal of a difference. Making sure that I got all that camberonis in there. You know, when you got extra camberonis, you get a little more tram lining. But when you get more tram lining, you get a little more understanding of what's happening on the road. And with these brakes, they are pretty good, and they don't like to overheat too much. And this thing, like with that diff, you can just floor it. mid-corner. Like I was matted. Obviously not in the power band there, but just matted going around that corner, and it's just like, man, whatever, I'll just go. Where with the stock suspension and the stock diff, it was a little looser. I mean, yeah, similar tire. I had RT660s on it when I first got it. Similar tire to an RE71. These have a lot of heat cycles on them, so I guess it's pretty similar. And yeah, honestly, just goes now. With this suspension and this setup, I've dialed in some of the damping settings with a couple, you know, friends to help. But if you want to drive it civilized, there's no bog. The gearbox is really easy to use. I mean, there is bog, I will say, just because I'm not revving very high, but I'm keeping it quiet and driving around. I got the AC on, we got windows open. We're just having a good old time. I'm in 5th gear, going 50 miles an hour. We're not going very fast, but the whole part about this is like, this is a usable on the street car, but when I need it to be, I can slap the harnesses and a Hans and a helmet on, go to the track, drop tire pressures, and it's good to go. I don't even change the suspension settings when I'm on the street. I just leave it the same. If I really was going on like a long trip, I might crank the rebound to 0. But yeah, man, this thing is amazing. Just blasting AC all the time. 3.6, happy revving engine, bulletproof with the dry sump. It's just awesome. The steering wheel made a huge difference running a smaller diameter steering wheel. I had the 375, which is the stock wheel, and I ended up going with a leather one, and it was all right. It just felt like I was driving a boat with that big steering wheel, so I put a 350 on here, which is that Mod 69 from Momo. I'm not a huge fan of Alcantara, and I've got a Porsche like prototypo wheel that I want to put in here, so I don't know. I may do that at some point in the near future. I'm using it under my sim setup at the moment, so hear the diff. Under low load, when the car gets hot, the diff does make a little bit of noise, but that's pretty standard. I'm used to that. I've had drift cars with like 1.5 ways and 2 ways in them. The clutch types, they just slip and slap and do all kinds of stuff when they don't have enough power or torque to cause that rear inside wheel to slip when you're going around a corner at slow speeds. But this thing is like a hilariously fun street car now, where with the longer gearing and stock suspension, yeah, it was cool. But again, like I said, I set up my cars to be able to just, if I wanted to, roll up to the ring in Germany, you know, just go real fast, skip across the Atlantic, and then, you know, go to the ring. If you want to go to the ring in a car like this, this is the car. It's set up for that. It's set up to drive to and from the track. I don't need a trailer. I can take this on road trips. I can go have fun in the mountains. That was the whole setup. That's my whole ideology behind builds, and that's where I'm at. So if you guys have any comments, questions about this particular car, I don't think I ruined it, but you know, if you think I ruined it, you can put it in the comment section below and explain to me how I may make it better. At some point, wow, lighting changed quite significantly there. At some point, I will probably build the engine. Maybe a 4.2 stroker, or maybe a DFI 4 liter out of a 991.2. I really like that engine, and apparently Dundon's doing some swaps, so have all that torque, modern technology, but I will get hate from my Mezger buddies. They will literally shun me from their group. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Maybe I'll do one about my Red M3, which is getting a 3.4 liter freaking stroker S54. Or maybe we'll talk about the E36 that's got an S54 in it. That's a full race car that I picked up in Finland and now is here in America. Let's hear this gearbox chatter when it's like really warm. So we're at 210 oil temps right now. Oh, it's not bad. It's not bad. Stupid ass Kia. Whoa, birdies. Are they doing the thing? Oh shit, they're doing the thing. I gotta turn around and watch those birdies. They're doing the thing. Check this out. Oh yeah, they're doing it. Ugh. While we wait on the birds to do the thing, we'll just get some sick The birds are doing the thing.